War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we sit down, we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. Always heavy on the sports here, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. We appreciate you joining us and watching, whether you are live or on the replay, just spending a few minutes of your time to hang out with us and talk about what we love about being part of the Auburn family. On today's live stream, it's going to be a little bit of a different one, not solely so much focused about a game or the results of a game, but the things around the game. That's right. We're talking about Auburn uniforms again, and we're going to break down a change to the uniform. There is nothing more scary, and I don't necessarily mean that as a bad thing, to Kyle as a traditionalist than a uniform change. So it's fitting with Halloween. I'm wearing my orange shirt to fit all of that with the orange theme of yesterday at the Auburn Ole Miss game. We're going to talk about Auburn adding orange face masks to their repertoire of the Auburn uniform scope landscape. But I'm not as qualified to talk about that. So to do that, of course, we bring in the one, the only, the owner of the Auburn Uniform Database, the czar of Auburn tradition, the aficionado of Auburn uniforms, and an oddly decorated individual, Clint Richardson of the Auburn Uniform Database. Thank you for that, Clint. Are you just going to stare at me the entire time?
No. I got too big a head to keep that thing on much longer.
Honestly, I was wondering what was going on there. I was like, how did you squeeze that big old noggin into that little bitty thing?
Well, it's actually a youth extra large, but they're small. I got a big head, and I need an adult large, if not an adult extra large, to put my head in these things. So I can wear it for a little bit.
I was about to say, you get claustrophobic in that thing.
That's not too bad, honestly. It's just, you probably can't tell, but it only sits to here, whereas they should cover my entire jaw.
Right.
But, just to scare you a little bit, to get into the Halloween festivities, I thought I'd dress up a little bit.
I appreciate that. You're wearing your uniform. I mean, I don't see you that often actually wear uniforms around, so this is quite a treat. You are feeling festive.
And you know what? I'm not actually a big fan of Halloween, so
I wouldn't say that I'm a humongous fan of Halloween, but I would say that I am a fan of candy. And, if it gives you an excuse to wear an Auburn jersey, if that's what you're going to be, hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I wore a jersey every game, when I was a student, but they only really make an appearance for this show right here at this point.
Listen, I feel special. I really do. I feel super special about this thing. All right, so I know a lot of you are probably wanting to talk about Auburn versus Ole Miss specifically. We did do that a lot on the late night live stream. Go check that out for the reaction show if you'd like to. As a reminder, we're not having any of the regularly scheduled shows this week. Just we can cover that up front again for those that missed that last night. But we can get into some of that maybe a little bit later. I do want us to focus a little bit, though, obviously on the topic at hand, and that being a uniform change. And Clint, you know me, and I don't know, I could feel your giddiness just building throughout the week. I don't know if you could feel the twitching coming from me, as the week got closer, because it's not that I hate changes. It's just I'm a traditionalist and I don't necessarily get on board as quickly with it as most people. So that's where I'm coming from usually. You, sir, love this stuff. And I think Halloween came early for Clint Richardson.
This was Christmas and birthday all combined. I forget Halloween. Now, so, I've been doing this for a while now. And, anytime somebody asks me, what would you change about the Auburn football uniform? This is it. Yeah. Bring me the orange face mask back. This is the only change I would ever make to the uniform. And it finally happened last night. And my face hurts from smiling all night. It was totally a dream come true, honestly.
I literally just couldn't stop. Every time I'd pull up social media, there'd be a new post from Clint. And I'm just like, he can't stop typing about this stuff. I was like, man, just the perfect week for you.
It was so much fun. And, the rumors have been swirling for a couple of weeks. So I was able to prep and be able to run with it when it happened. So just to see it actually happen was, so shocking and so exciting that this actually happened. Like I'm still like I tweeted this morning, it wasn't a dream last night. It actually happened. I'm still on cloud nine. And it's just a face mask. It's kind of silly, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It just
Well,
made a world of difference to the uniform, I think.
Well, and just from the fact that Auburn doesn't ever change anything, that's a
Right.
slight change like that is just, an incredible thing. All right, as you guys are coming in, make sure you post where you're watching from, War Eagle City, State International. Thanks for being here, Neil. War Eagle, go Braves as well. Obviously, World Series tonight. So yeah, I will say this. If you joined us on our last live stream that we did of this nature, when we debuted the white face mask, I was probably much more excited about that one because that's a very clean and natural look to an already white based helmet. I personally, after looking at it on everything, I loved everything about the white face mask after kind of taking some time to think about it. So for us to get 2 in 1, what does that mean, Clint? To get one change in the season where Auburn doesn't change anything except socks or shoes, maybe. What does that mean, like, for you? And does that make you like nervous for what else is coming, or happy or excited? Like, what are you? I mean, I know you're excited, but like, where are you sitting right now as a guy who just covers Auburn uniforms?
Well, to answer your first question, what does this mean? It means that the door is wide open. Who knows what's coming around the corner, and I actually hope to write an article in the coming weeks about that very topic of, what does this mean going forward? What does next year look like and beyond? So, hopefully we can discuss that one later. But from my perspective, like I'm excited, just it's, I never thought I would say I'm excited to see a different Auburn football look, but you have 3 really good options for just a face mask that all of them work really well, and you can kind of play around with them. And we've only seen the white face mask with the white uniforms at night. We've only seen the orange face mask with the blue uniforms at night. We haven't seen either of them with the opposite color jersey, and we haven't seen either of them in the daylight. So there are opportunities to kind of play to the scheduling to create a different look. The weather actually makes a big difference in the setting of the how the uniform kind of plays, but also I think you have an opportunity to mix it up against certain opponents. We're going to Texas A&M this weekend. I've had a lot of people ask me, are we going to wear the white face mask at A&M? And I think, let's just think about it like this. Back in 2013, when we made that trip out there for the first time, Johnny Manziel and the team wore white helmets, maroon jerseys, and white pants with Auburn's all-white uniform made for a lot of white. And if you change the face mask to white, that's even more just there's one piece of color on the entire uniform between the two teams. So I think if you get somebody like, Mississippi State, who happens to wear all maroon sometimes, like that is the perfect time to,
Contrast.
Play a little different. Yeah, just let's play a little contrast game and
make fun of them in Penn State with their whole whiteout thing, and we did the white face mask.
I mean, you can do a lot of different stuff, and I know Penn State is, white, blue, white at that point, so that kind of proves the point. But you can create different, uniform matchups against these other teams and create some really interesting looks.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing that probably has Clint the most excited is the options out there now, because whereas it was just like, well, I'm looking at socks and shoes and wristbands, maybe like some difference in the way, not necessarily a stripe, but just the way the striation of something is a little bit different. Now Clint actually gets like, hey, it's right there in front of you, things to talk about. I posted Neil's comment here, and we can talk. I want to maybe save the gray face mask for towards the end of this live stream. Let's save that for a second. But I like what he says about the orange face mask is a nice contrast, does not clash with the uniform or helmet. Should I give my opinions, or do you think it's too early for that?
What you think? You tell me. I'm listening to you, bro. Tell me your thoughts. I'm ready to hear it.
I like so if you let me take a step back here. You go and look at the images of the old orange face mask. Obviously, different time, different era, different abilities we have to make colors look better and all that stuff. So it was more of what I'm not a aesthetic person here, so you correct me if I'm wrong in the way I say it, but that was more of a dull matte kind of finish to the face mask back in the day, right?
So the finish and the color are two different things technically.
See, this is why
it was a brighter shade of orange, regardless of why that happened. But I think for a little bit of context, Auburn added the orange face mask in 1979. The first colored face mask were worn by the San Diego Chargers, a yellow mask, in 1974. So at that point, we were only 5 years into the ability to color a face mask. The reason we wore gray at all is because companies could not figure out how to put pigment into it. That's why every team in the country wore gray in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, or as face masks came along. So, when they finally said, "Hey, we got an orange face mask," nobody questioned. It doesn't really match this orange. So, you just ran with it. It's also hard to tell, and I would love to be able to dive into this a little deeper, if it was just a lighting situation, the quality of camera at the time. Because, let's be honest, like, cameras have come so far in 40 years, but also back in the day, the sports photographers didn't have the super high quality cameras that, say, the White House would have. And there's a lot of grain, there's a lot of miscoloration at times. I have a feeling it's just a lighter shade, and it's gotten a little darker over the time, especially with that metallic stripe and finish on the the decal and the face mask last night. But it's a different shade for sure. And that was always the concern for some people. It's like, why can't we get that darker orange? But again, that's something that I need to dive into a little bit more.
Well, and like you said, you just talked about how things have changed over time. We'll get there at some point. This is just the experimenting with it at this point. So to that point, I do not like the old orange face mask at all. But there's a part of the orange face mask for me that it's almost too gaudy for me now. Okay. Almost. It's. And I remember
you're talking about the old face mask. Right?
I'm sorry. Let me clarify. So the old face mask did not like, because I just don't think it works well with the uniform back then. That's just me, and that's me being a traditionalist and liking just the standard dark navy face mask. Now with the new one, and it could be just me the way I was looking at it in certain lights. I had a close up look in the locker room where they've got pretty decent lighting in there when I went on the locker room tour. And obviously you see it on TV and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of these shiny helmets. There's almost, in the way I saw it, too much of a shine to it. And I know that's a finishing thing, not necessarily the coloration of it. I would almost prefer it to be the reason I think that I like the white ones so well, because there was really no shine to it. And I know that's because it's white, and we're getting into things about color and all that stuff. We're not going to discuss
color theory is a challenge at times. But you're right. I have all these samples now. The white, the face mask matched the finish of the helmet. And it did create one really nice cohesive look. Absolutely. Same with the Navy. Navy is or at least Auburn's Navy on the uniforms are so dark that sometimes it's tough to tell if it's blue or black. Right. And, the closer you go to black, the less these finishes are going to show up. And with orange being such a much brighter color, the finish affects it so much.
Yeah.
That was when the images started leaking, and when we were finally able to confirm it. Before we ever saw it on the field, a lot of people said, "I don't like the finish," and I totally understand that.
Right.
It's a little splashy. It, it, you know, again, it's a little splashy. It doesn't really match up at times, but again, you were looking at it in a very specific lighting situation, whether it be in the locker room or in the equipment room, or you know, it being on the field in proximity with the uniform, with proximity of the grass, and just the whole setting really ties it in well, and that gives you like it's only going to be worn on the field.
Right.
So let's hold judgment until we see it on the field.
That's fair. That's a fair point. That is, I don't disagree with that whatsoever, which is why, when I walked in, I saw the images and my first reaction was, my second reaction walking into the locker room and taking a look around and just kind of trying to take it. And I was like, it's fine. It's a little flashy for my taste. On the field, I lost sight of it. If that makes sense. Like it didn't become like a stick out to me.
Right.
What I will point out, what I noticed, and I think this is why I prefer the Navy one, is because I think it almost focuses more on the faces of the players, whereas the dark navy kind of almost makes them more, it covers them up more, and it makes it look more ominous and, kind of if we're talking about, how things make us feel and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I think that's where it gets for me. The dark navy this is football. This is a game, that kind of lends to that kind of effect. The white, because it flows so well with the rest of the helmet, it just fits to me. Orange is going to take a little bit of getting used to. It's not that I don't like it, but we've talked about doing a podcast about this at the end of the season, because Lord knows we might get some more new uniform changes at this point. We got two, so we'll sit down and talk about all of that in detail in a podcast at the end of the season. But as of this moment, it is my least favorite of our three current options at this point. Jack did say that Doug Barfield was honored last night. I missed that. I didn't get it. I know you weren't at the stadium.
I heard that the rumor was going around before the game that he was going to be honored. I saw Jack's comment. I was going to ask you about that because I have not seen anything beside just a few people saying that.
I might have been either huddled up because I was freezing up in the upper deck, or I was out in the walkways getting food during that. I cannot recall it for the life of me, and I'm shocked that someone else hasn't pointed that out at that point. Doug Barfield probably doesn't have the greatest history in Auburn fans' mind because he's stuck between Shug and because of Pat, and he didn't have that much success. But it is still part of our history, whether we want to not, and the orange face mask are part of his history. So
right, and I want to jump in on that one. When somebody told me on Twitter that Barfield was going to be honored last night, whether it happened or not, had a couple of people jump in and say why he sucked.
Yeah, I don't like that. No,
I don't like that. He was, Doug was still part of the Auburn family one way or another. He was still a very successful offensive coordinator under Shug Jordan, and they just promoted him to, head coach when Shug retired.
Yep.
And let's be honest, the Auburn job kind of killed him, or at least his coaching career.
Yeah.
He didn't coach again after leaving Auburn. And though he lives in Montgomery, last I heard, he still doesn't travel to Auburn very much, which is incredibly sad that, 5 years of your life determines your entire life. People, a population of the people in the city despise you,
right,
because of lack of success. And I think that is where you find the line of a sport carrying over too much.
Let me I think jump in with you. So you jumped in there. Let me jump in also with you. And here real quick, Jack is clarifying that he thinks it was pregame. Well, that's why I missed it, because of all the coverage stuff I do before the game. I hardly ever get to see the Eagle flight. Usually I'm walking up the ramp as that happens. So yesterday was no exception. It was busy all day. There was a lot, great atmosphere. Talked a lot about that on the live stream last night. But let me jump in on your comment there. And I'm going to try not to get too much in my soapbox here. But this is why I get so frustrated with fans that are down on our previous coaches. And I get that it's the easy thing now is to dump on Gus Malzahn, especially now because we're having success right now. But you got to remember that. Do you want him to be the next Doug Barfield where he's not welcome back? And, it doesn't feel welcome to come back and celebrate what his success is here. When time goes by, we can talk about, comparisons to how good he was and how good he wasn't. But, if Doug never felt like he could come back or was going to be welcome back, that's sad. And so you should feel like there's a reason that Gene Chizik stayed in Auburn. There's a reason that Tommy Tuberville stayed in Auburn. There's a reason that X, Y, and Z come back to Auburn, So I think we should be cognizant of that and try to be a little bit better about it. I get wanting to win, and I get frustrations with head coach McCall, voice our opinions, but at the same time, let's bring it down just a little bit. But Rowdy Gaines, sorry, real quick, I do want to, because Rowdy does not get enough coverage. Rowdy is like
absolutely
the number 4, and I don't mean number 4 as in like that's in that order, but like if you had a Mount Rushmore of Auburn, Bo, Barkley, Big Hurt, Rowdy's on there. And I think you could probably do the 5 there and do Vicky Orr too as well. I think that she's got to be thrown in there in terms of, just great athletes at Auburn. Unbeaten Lake kind of stepping to a somewhat different topic here, but I just want to address it. Do you think we get the orange jerseys, Clint?
To go with the possibility. It's much more of a possibility now than it was 6 months ago.
And that's why I'm twitching. Because I think that's why I twitch, Clint, is because every little change that comes, it's almost like someone cracked the door and let the draft in. And then all of a sudden, here's this big old wide open door. We've got a full-blown hurricane coming down the corridor right now.
Right.
Now, again, go ahead.
No,
I was just going to say, I'm not opposed to it. It's just not something that I'm as comfortable with.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I was trying to put my thoughts down on paper about this very topic of how much of the slippery slope is this? How wide open is the door at this point? And we're going to see new stuff coming, I'm pretty sure. We saw 2 new things this year, which are 2 more things than we've seen in the last 60 years.
Right.
So, the precedent has been set. How far Auburn wants to go with it is yet to be seen. But I still hold the stance that this is a brand, and Auburn will do anything to protect that brand.
Right.
So Auburn's not going to go too crazy.
Right.
You're not like, please don't ever worry that Auburn is going to become the next Oregon of the SEC.
Right.
That's not happening. How far we go, I don't know.
Right.
Do we see throwback uniforms? I hope so. Do we see pink uniforms? No.
I can't say anything to that. I'm literally like Twitch. You can't see my leg, but it's like thumping right now. Every time you mention, can we see this? Can we see that? No. Dusty says, War Eagle, the face mask change up this year has been cool as long as that's as far as it goes. And I think that's probably how a lot of people feel. I think Dana Marquez, the rest of the staff that's involved in these decision makings, all the way up to probably Coach Harsin and whoever's involved in that within the administration. I think they probably have had many conversations about what is this okay? How much blowback? We're going to get some blowback. How much is the blowback we get worth the hype that it builds?
Well, yes, absolutely. And like you, there have been some people who have been hesitant on the orange face masks from last night. But I would argue that the reception around the orange mask and the white mask have been universally positive. I have seen people who have, tweeted me all week long. I was against the orange mask in theory. I was against the metallic finish of the mask, but seeing them in person, I love them.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the white face mask. I want to see orange face mask permanently, honestly.
No, Clint, don't do that to me. You can't do that. No. Now I'm twitching. I'm twitching.
Now you're twitching. And look, that is what I love about this. And some people don't seem to understand that is a uniform is one thing that everybody can have an opinion of, regardless how much you know about it.
And nobody's wrong.
And nobody's wrong. I'm really deep in the weeds on this stuff because this is what I enjoy doing. But, Kyle, I know you're not, you say it yourself. You're not too informed on this. You said it, 20 minutes ago.
Right.
That's what's great about it. And even the people who say, I don't care, who cares? You have an opinion.
Right.
Let's just have a chat about it. This isn't, we're not solving cancer here. We're not saving the world. We're talking about a helmet. And it's just enjoy it.
Right. And I think that's what,
if you like it, great. If you don't, who cares?
I think that's the thing that people get so, bent out of shape about. I was like, why are you focusing on this? And I was like, well, because we love all things Auburn, and this is Auburn. There's a reason that, we do a track and field show. It's because we care about all things Auburn. I know most of you probably don't care about it, but you should. Don't get me on that soapbox. I'm a huge track and field fan now. In fact, met a track and field athlete and their mom the other day when I was about a month ago on campus. And they were, let me just tell you, I know, we'll probably never make a dent in meeting the coaches and the players until they're, beyond their time and they're alumni in a sense then at that point. But some of these athletes that are there currently, they deserve your respect and they deserve your attention, and they are appreciative of just the fact that we would do a show about them. So sorry, I got my soapbox out again. So the same thing. The point is, just because we care about talking about it doesn't mean that we're not focused about football. It just means that we're having fun with it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are blessed with Miss D Ford. I think your enthusiasm for orange face masks really rubbed off on us fans, Clint. There you go. Highest praise from the highest honor in Auburn fandom. I mean, honestly, I don't say that in a joking manner. I say that in all seriousness. I don't know that anybody can reach the level of Auburn fandom familyness that is Miss D Ford. It's the reason she was episode #1 on Auburn Roots, because her story is the best things about the Auburn story. Let's see. We got a question from Corey. Clint, do you think that's a home game helmet now in the white away helmets? What do you think about that type of concept question thing?
I think it's possible. Again, we'll just have to see what they decide to do. I think that would be a cool way to do it. I think even just saving, the orange mask and the white mask for one home or away game each would be cool. Yeah, I don't know. It's just,
yeah,
it's up for grabs.
I think, let me go back to what we talked about on the previous live stream. We talked about the white face mask, which was about a month ago. That was Penn State. I like the concept of making them not necessarily an annual thing, but for something special. Like, like we add this to a repertoire, but it's not like we do this every away game necessarily. Like, we break out the white face mask for the big non-conference opponent, whether that's on the road or maybe at home too. But I think that is something, because it's something that a little extra hype to go behind the thing. It kind of builds anticipation. We're breaking out the face mask again.
Well, and there is precedent for that. Not so much at Auburn, but outside of that, look at LSU. LSU is always, I think it was Saban actually brought this back. LSU wears purple for non-conference games unless it's the first home game. So I think that, Auburn can do something similar to that. All home non-conference games, get the white face mask or get an alternate mask or anything of those kind of things.
Yeah, I think you could definitely do something like that. I was going to think about, like, maybe this could be the Halloween mask. You don't always play on Halloween, but you're usually like right about it. And it kind of fits with the theming. And I don't know if that's something that's favorable to do, but like if you're going to do stuff like this, don't make it a gimmick. Make it part of the rotation. Just really figure out how often that happens, and don't make it too often, because I think that's how you balance and I think too, if you do these things too often, it loses some of its luster. I think there's a fine balance, and I don't want to be the ones having to make this type of decisions.
And I think that's why if I were in charge, and we know that I'm not, as the team goes to Texas A&M this weekend, I think it would be really smart to go back to the Navy face mask this weekend.
Mhm.
Because if you were to break out either of the other two alternates, you do kind of diminish the specialness of the white or of either color.
Right.
You know, keep them special, and people and players will thoroughly love them for what they are. It's
Right.
once we get into, you know, basically if we regulate the Navy face mask to special, both white and orange will lose that special flavor.
Right. I think so. I think so.
And I'm okay with that.
Here's a question from Unbeaten Lake. He says, I've always wondered what happened with the dark visors. I feel like the matching dark visors with the orange face mask would look amazing. So Clint's got a little prop here.
Yep. So the dark visors are illegal in play.
Yep.
So they weren't always, but of course, as concussions have become the top discussion in the sport, they have outlawed them. They must be clear. I think you can only go to maybe 10% tint in certain leagues. It always depends on who is actually enforcing it. But should you be knocked out, the trainers need to be able to see your eyes. That's the rule. That's the explanation behind the rule. Whether it's accurate or not, I'm not a physician. I'm not a trainer. I don't try to be. But I mean, you couldn't see my eyes when I wore this earlier.
No, and that what was creepy about it, because I'm used to seeing Clint here, but I couldn't see anything.
Well, and so let's see. I think I have all the same visors, but this is a smoke 90. So only 10% of light is allowed through this. This is 90% tint. Now the opposite way, 10% tint doesn't really do you much good. It's about what your car might be about 20% standard tint.
Right.
But we in the NFL, because of sponsorship issues and stuff, they have allowed players to go to colored visors, only if it's an Oakley visor, but that's a different thing. But they are very particular about it for mostly safety reasons.
Yeah. Well, and some of that makes sense, but I do miss the dark
Does it look
visor
good?
look.
Yes, it looks good.
It looks absolutely good.
That's why they're on the shelf in dark visors.
Let me give a quick shout out to Vernon Speak Sports for the super chat. Thank you, sir, War Eagle, and thank you for your support as always. Just being here and sharing our stuff. Appreciate you, Vernon, and love your opinions as well. Oh, you're so kind, sir. Appreciate that. So I had a couple questions I wanted to ask you. I'm trying to get them back in my mind fully on what exactly. What in your impression, because obviously this is your niche, and so the conversation centralized around this stuff for you. What do you think the breakdown, based off what you saw, is liked versus hated? Like if you had to put a percentage on it, is it 50-50, 80-20, 90-10? Like what would you say just based off what you think, or if you did any data on that?
So I do have a little data. Let me actually see if I can't find it.
Because those are the things I have a guess, but I want to see what I know. You probably have a better beat on this than me.
So I did actually put up a poll on Twitter and on Instagram after the white face masks were worn, and they were just overwhelmingly positive. Mm-hmm. Even Facebook, let's be honest, Facebook is an older, demographic. Instagram is a younger demographic. Twitter is right down the middle. And when I post, content on the Auburn Uniform Database, social media accounts, I post them on all three. And Facebook generally lends to do not touch my uniforms, do not change anything. You're Lanafont, Kyle.
I lean that way. I lean that way.
So after the Penn State game, I posted that, and surprisingly, those individuals that I know for certain are against changing uniforms loved it. I was shocked, and I think that the Twitter poll was 85-15 positive. That had over 1,500 people vote between Instagram and Twitter, and can't do polls on Facebook at the moment, but I would think that it would be a very similar number.
That's the impression that I got. about how people were feeling about it. You've got people that are just obstinate, no change whatsoever. And I empathize with those people and I understand, but I'm also willing to give things a chance. But that's kind of how I felt it would break down as well, just based off what I'm seeing. I will say though, I saw less of a vocal, group about the orange face mask, which I thought I would see more. I think it was one of those things. The wall was broken by the white face mask. It's kind of broken that
Yes.
will.
Yeah, I think so. And to counter that, I didn't see a very vocal, group of people one way or the other with the orange face mask. I got a lot of people who said I like it and I love it and let's make it permanent, but they weren't as passionate last night as they were 6 weeks ago with the white mask. And again, maybe that's just because the shock of it all had disappeared at that point.
Yeah. Here's another interesting way to talk about this. And you wish it wasn't this way, but there is a certain, this has to do with the success of the program, yeah, uniforms sometimes aren't, it's just a fun topic, but there are some recruits that they really care about that stuff. They really care what kind of, variations they have. Now you can look at Alabama and say, if you have enough success, they don't vary anything, that there, obviously there's those cases like that, but that's a selling point to some people to know that they have an option for something else.
Right.
And I think that can't go understated, that doing something like this. And I think if you looked at the response from former alumni, former players, but also the response from some of the recruits that were either at the game or watching and paying close attention to it, boy, that was a great game for them to be paying attention to. I'm just going to tell you, Clint, that game was in top 10 of my time. I've been a lot of good Auburn games. A lot of them are the 2010 season because I was a senior, but that atmosphere was incredible. And so when you couple, that type of feelings with that does worlds for, not worlds, I shouldn't say. It makes a slight change in impression, maybe that an athlete may have said, well, if I go here, there's a chance that they're going to break these out. I may not know when, I may not know how often, but there's an option.
Right.
So I think there's some value in
that. So I get that comment a lot, and my stance on recruiting.
Right.
I'm not going to, I'm not enjoying, the idea of paying attention to what a high school kid decides where he wants to go play football. It's just, that's a different topic.
Yours is uniforms.
Right. We all have what we enjoy. And the idea that, a lot of people like to say all recruits like alternate uniforms.
Right.
That you should do it so that you could reach every single kid. Well,
right.
Just like I like uniforms and you are, somewhat interested and somebody might be not interested at all, the same things with an 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
We all have things that we, care about, that we're interested in. One kid might come to Auburn and only want to go to Oregon because of all the different uniforms he gets to wear. The next kid who walks through the door couldn't care less. And is it a good selling point to some of these players? Sure. I mean, we see it with Georgia right now. They have ordered blank pants that don't have any stripes so that these high school kids can dress up in their uniform for recruiting visits. Those pants are never going to get worn on the field. It's solely to appease the dress up and the recruits. And when you see with Auburn, like Auburn does something similar. I don't know if you've ever noticed this. They have recruits posing in jerseys with the number 2, with the number 7, and with the number 88, and with the number 34. That's never going to happen. I can guarantee you that kid is never going to wear number 7.
But it's a selling point.
But it's a selling point. So, do what you have to do to sell a kid on your school. Sure.
Yeah.
But to put a giant blanket statement over all 18-year-olds that they all want something different and that simply changing the color of the face mask is going to convince them to come to your school, is short-sighted.
Yeah, it's definitely not something you should put all your eggs in a basket on, but it is still a tool, no matter how minor it might be. And you never know what might push something over the top. And if it is that, and if it's the recruit that's worth it, I'm all on board for it. Hey, whatever gets them here so we can have the best success possible. Real quick, let me clarify. I was not a senior in high school. I was a senior in college, and that was my triple senior year. I was in college for 6 years. Changed majors.
You got me beat by a year.
If you look at my hairline, you can tell that I'm much older than some people think I am. But yes, I was my last year in college. My last year at Auburn was the championship year. Vernon finished back in 2002. So we were 8 years apart. Math's hard, Math's hard. Corey says, I'm on Kyle's side and uniforms can't smack people around. Absolutely. And that's not what they're intended to do. They're intended to create hype. They're intended to create, interest. And boy, did it last night. And, here's the other thing that I wanted to bring up. The whole idea, well, we lost, so we can't ever do that again. There was a little bit of that. I know Clint's face right now. I can see it. After the Penn State game. Clint, you don't have to worry about that now, because the orange face mask came out and the team performed outstanding. And
that's why they should be permanent, Kyle.
See, hey, if we're gonna go with that logic, then yes.
I got that a lot this week. We never win when we make a change. Well, there's these people who try to make that claim are only bringing up 2 occasions: the Outback Bowl against Minnesota with the Pat Sullivan tribute helmet, and Penn State this year. But they're conveniently leaving out the 2007 throwback helmet against Vanderbilt.
Right.
That had a gray face mask and no decals on this, or no AU logo decals. Like, that was a win. And, let's be honest, Auburn has plenty of losses in a Navy jersey, in a Navy face mask. Actually, let's see, I actually had it written down in my article. The Navy face mask have lost 140 times. They've won 303 games in Navy. Should we never see Navy again?
Right.
It's stuff like Auburn has lost games under Bo Nix. Should Bo Nix never be allowed in the state ever again?
Speaking of which,
that's just how silly that conversation can get.
Speaking of which, have you seen this circulate in the Saturday Down South article where they said, with Gus gone, Bo Nix will never see time at quarterback again? That was the headline, and this is why I caution people, whether it's about uniforms, don't make these big bold statements about it. Try to just wade in, put your toe in, try it out, and then see what happens. And then you can probably make more definitive statements, because and that's the thing now, is we all live on social media. Everybody can hide behind their avatars and stuff like that. So they can say these things and not have to worry about sometimes the blowback of it. Sometimes they can find you, though.
That's why I put some of them on blast this week.
I saw that. You were having a good old time in many ways this week. So let's do this. I would like to talk maybe about future. Let me ask this: does Auburn go to the gray face mask this year, in your opinion?
No.
And how confident are you on
that? 80%.
So, is there another variation that we're not thinking of that? Let's just assume that they were going to do one more. Other than let's take gray out of it. We've done white, navy, orange. Is there another variation that you could see Auburn doing?
Color-wise, no. But did you know that yellow is an official school color?
No, it's not, Clint.
It is.
No, it's not.
It is.
What do we put yellow on?
I don't think I have a sample near me, but the Tiger Eyes logo has yellow in the eyes. And because when they introduced that logo, they made yellow an official team color. So technically we could do that. I hope that never happens. But no, I don't think you're going to see any other color. I think those are the only 4 color options that make sense.
Right.
The difference now is going to be in finish.
Yeah.
Do we go with a standard glossy finish like the navy and the white? Do you go metallic on all of them, like the orange, which like we said earlier, it will be difficult to tell on the others, or do you go chrome? You know, I shared an image this week on Twitter about the difference in that finish, and go look at Boise State. They have a chrome orange face mask that they wear time and time again, and it's a completely different finish. It's much brighter, much shinier. Is that an option? And we could even see, here's another thing that I just thought of. We can see a striped face mask. It won't happen, but it's possible.
I'm trying to stop switching. I'm trying to stop switching.
So a couple of years ago, I guess it was about 2012, or when Oregon State introduced a new logo and new uniforms. They had like 3 or 4 different face mask colors, but down the center were 3 stripes,
right?
To basically to be a beaver's tooth. Those only lasted a couple of years, and now Oregon, at least recently, has been wearing a couple where like the outer bars, these outer bars are one color, but then the inner bars are another set of colors. So, you got like green right here and black on the side, or yellow right here and green on the sides. It's not the best look in the world, but it's something that can happen. And I doubt that would be a thing for Auburn.
No.
That is too gaudy.
No. Here's another hypothetical for Clint. Can you see Auburn having a white helmet with an Aubie logo, like on your hat? He's got another prop.
I got something. It's not the Sailor Aubie, but it's
shout out
Tiger
to
dude.
Yeah, shout out to Avery Dubb. We have interviewed him. I think it was episode 11 of Auburn Roots. He's an Auburn graphic designer. So you check out. This is like his iteration of something Auburn. Little Tiger dude.
Yeah. So LTD is my boy, and we had some fun with these helmets. Avery got a white helmet with his image on it. I got the navy one. I do think that's possible. The Sailor mascot logos have become really popular recently. You've got let's see who all has worn one. Oregon has worn Puddles. Missouri has worn their Sailor. Baylor just wore theirs recently. BYU also wore one. I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but they're super popular. They look amazing on a helmet. I had a couple of concepts floating around the internet with that very look, but it's possible. Again, it's all about a brand, and it just depends if Auburn is willing to divert from the AU logo on the helmets just to make a splash uniform-wise.
So I guess one more final question on just the changes and what we're seeing going forward. Do you think and I think we talked about this in the last live stream, but do you think the push for doing something different is coming more from the coaching staff and his administration, or from like Dana Marquez and that area? And I know they're all interconnected in every way, but like if you had to say, based on what you're seeing, what you're hearing, where is the push coming? Is it simply that Dana really wants to try these new things and hasn't felt like he could for a while? Or is it Coach Harsin said, you know what, new era, new time, we're going to do things different?
It's both. After the white face mask, Dana was interviewed by Auburn Undercover about how the process worked and everything. And he said, let's see, he even mentioned that he wanted to change the helmet to blue 1 year, which, as we know, was the Navy helmets from 2010. Those were real. How far they got on the production line, whether it was a prototype or not, is a different story. But Dana has always wanted to try different stuff. I've been told that by many people who have worked with him in the past, that he is not so much of the traditionalist as many would think. Even I would think. I got laughed at when I said that he was a traditional guy. But Dana also said in that article that Harsin and the head of player development personnel.
Brad Lorondo. Wow, I just butchered that.
Yeah, nice. I'm glad you did that, not me. But Harsin and a staff member approached Dana with the idea of doing the white face mask. So, it's a two-headed monster in that sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think that they are clearly doing this in small ways and just seeing what happens. And if they go too far, the fans will let them know. You can bet
and I think
on that.
that's a fair that's a very understandable thing as to why the fans would do that. I had a lot of people were spreading rumors about orange jerseys this weekend, and I tried to calm it down on Twitter. Like, the way that this is happening is the way that it should have always happened. Small doses of small changes.
Yeah.
Let's, take an inch today. So give an inch today so that you can take a foot next year.
Yeah.
Let's tease out some of these small changes like the face mask so that you can introduce an orange jersey next year.
Yeah.
Theoretics, obviously, but that's how that this should have always been. And I'm glad that that's how they're doing it.
Well, we're going to continue to speculate, and we're going to continue to wonder how much more creative the entirety of the Auburn staff, no matter who's involved in it, what aspect of it is going to be. But I would say that the orange face mask obviously had a much more enjoyable result, making the aspect of the change not as big of a deal. Because today, there would be a segment out there, well, we lost. We can't ever do that again, But I think the reason that you don't hear that as much about the white face mask is because they looked good. And so if something looks good, there's not going to be enough, credible chatter behind it to not do it again. So we'll keep watching and keep monitoring. We can take, we're going to start wrapping up here in just a little bit. We're not going away just yet, though. We're going to cover a couple things before we go any further. So get your last minute comments and questions. And we can even, if you want to ask some questions about the game last night to Clint, you can as well. I want to give Clint an opportunity to talk about his uniform website and where you can find all his stuff and things that you've been posting about this week.
Yeah. Always be sure to follow me on Twitter at ClintAU24. And you can always, keep up with everything I post on Facebook and Instagram at Auburn Uniforms. But you can find just about everything you need to find on the Auburn Uniform Database website at auburnuniforms.com.
Yes, and obviously you want to pay attention to stuff like this because Clint, he's got his sources, and you may want to.
I kind of know what I'm talking about.
And he also, you may want to just. Sometimes I've learned Clint's style. He's not super cryptic, but he will start giving you signals that something's coming and whether it's legit or not. So he's a good follow for those type of things, because we talked a lot about rumors this week. You remember those rumors that were swirling even outside of that? Those didn't really amount to much this week because there were a lot of players that were supposed to be missing. So don't believe the rumors. Pay attention to the people that know what they're talking about. And then for us, again, reminders, no live streams are scheduled for this week because I will be on vacation. However, I'm trying to work on potentially giving you guys something while I'm gone. I can't guarantee that, though, trying to work out some schedules and things like that. But please make sure you're subscribed with that notification bell so you don't miss if we upload something or if we are able to live stream something else. But I will be back before the next game, and we will be doing stuff for that. So stay tuned for all that stuff. And if you haven't, please make sure you smash that like button. Unbeaten Lake says, do you think we might color the end zones orange or blue one year?
Possibly. I know that there's probably a little bit of frustration of having to always paint the field the exact same way the last couple of years, actually the last couple of decades. But the thing about painting the entire end zone is it kills the grass, especially orange and white. Again, look at color theory. White reflects all light.
Yep.
And orange is very similar, and it just destroys the grass. And so if it's going to happen, it's going to be the final game of the year.
That, or we're switching to turf, and we're getting rid of that anyway.
which we know will never happen because of how great the ad school is at Auburn.
Yes.
So everybody who wants to joke about Harsin going to orange or blue turf, like, it's not happening.
Right, but it only if it was going to happen, it happened in last game of the season or something like that. So I think that's what people need to, when you don't like these changes, you need to step back for a second and say, okay, can this actually happen? And because of that, would it actually happen? So the perfect example there, field colors, the whole field or the end zones. With an ag department, they're not switching to turf, so they're not going to do those type of things. Just think through those things before you get
the logic of it.
Right.
Will get you to the answer. Just like the orange jerseys this week. There is not enough time for that logistically to happen, especially in a pandemic supply chain world.
But next year, oh boy.
let me say this. All orders for next year's athletic year have been in place. They were placed months ago.
And do you think there was enough momentum behind to have something for next year?
It's possible.
Oh, good. Don't do that to me.
I don't have an answer for that one.
I know.
But just the lead time on being prepared for next season
especially
is
now.
So long, especially now. I was speaking to another equipment manager at another small, probably I don't even know what level the school is. I don't want to say it, but a smaller school. And he was having to run to go put in the order for next year just this past week.
So if the changes are going to happen, it's already in place and there's nothing you can do about it. So don't, at least for next year. So don't fret about it too much. Enjoy this one. We got the win with the orange face mask. In most people's eyes, that's all that really matters. I care about it because, it's something new and interesting to talk about. And I love talking about all things Auburn, and it makes Clint's life a little bit more interesting because he has to scramble to get ready for all this stuff. Like I said, I could feel your giddiness, but I could also feel you're like, oh, I gotta get this ready and that ready. I understood.
The anxiety was high.
Yeah.
The anxiety was high. The excitement was higher.
I think it couldn't have capped off a better way with a win, obviously against the top 10 opponent, and Auburn looking pretty good in the process as well.
Was it not a dang good looking uniform game though? It just looked good.
All right. Well, since you opened that door, I hate Ole Miss's uniforms. I hate them. I hate them with a passion. I know I let you down. I'm sorry. I wish I could take Ole Miss's uniforms and burn them. What would
you do to fix Ole Miss?
Let me answer that by saying this. My problem is there is too much of one color in the SEC West, and I know they're not a base red, but I'm just tired of reds and
I feel you.
And the powder blue, like if they had always done this powder blue thing, with them, and it was more constant.
Don't go down that road.
I know.
Powder was the primary in the 80s or in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Do you know who switched them over to Navy permanently in 1994?
In
1995?
Cutcliffe?
No.
Who?
He was going to leave Ole Miss in a pine box.
Tuberville
made the switch to Navy permanently.
Wow, look at that. Old Tubby making waves over there in many ways in his pine box. I've never been a fan of the Ole Miss uniforms ever. Like I've despised them since the day that I saw them. They are I would rather have to deal with the variations of Oregon than Ole Miss, and that's just me. And I hate them. I hate them, Clint, so much. Let me say this. I like Alabama's uniforms better than I like Ole Miss's uniforms.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a little solace. I don't like the current iteration of the Ole Miss uniform.
Right.
I don't like the fact that there is, let's go back to 2013. They revealed new uniforms to where they had two different white jerseys. One that had blue stripes and numbers and one that had red stripes and numbers. Then they had a red uniform that had no blue on it. And they had a blue uniform with no red on it. Mm-hmm. And go back to the Eli Manning era where they really did a, color balance much, much better. And that's desperately needed. Last night, what could have made last night better was that they wore their gray pants. Because the plain stripeless white pants are bad. Yeah, they should never have been worn. And that's all that Kiffin wants to wear.
Kiffin needs to make some interesting decisions, but who has a good opinion on Ole Miss uniforms is head coach Mike Leach. He liked the face mask for us last night. Coach Leach, even though this is not you, I want to hear more from you about your favorite candies and your favorite colors. I need Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin to stay in Mississippi forever. Like if we could just sign a clause that says, hey, you two can't leave because we like you there and you're entertaining to watch and you provide us, and that's me saying because we'll have to keep Lane there and he's probably going to keep getting that offense even better and better and be more challenging. But I just like having those two stuck in the same conference, in the same division, and in ours, because it just makes life interesting with them here. All right, Clint, I think we have covered this one in full detail. Thank you, sir, for being willing to hop on here and share with us about the orange face mask. And we got a lot of good opinions about it. And hopefully I won't be twitching too much, again soon this season.
Go twitch away on your vacation, okay?
I need it. I need it after this week. But thank you guys for tuning in. Smash that like button on the way out. Visit the Auburn Uniform database, auburnuniforms.com, for all of this stuff, and follow Clint on social media and check out the links in the description for ways so you can help support our content here. Thank you, everybody, our channel subscribers, members, and everybody who joined. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.